Klarna is an interesting buy now, pay later company, and investors have been asking me to do a video about this company. So, in response to your request, I've added coverage for Klarna. In this video specifically, I'm going to discuss the latest developments and what's going on with the company, according to what the management team said about their performance in the latest quarter. So, let's jump into these details.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So Klarna highlighted right at the very beginning one of the most important things that investors are looking to in response to the growth of the buy now, pay later industry, and that is the defaults. And the company saying that more people are paying on time and late payments continue to go down. That's the biggest concern from investors about this industry is how will the defaults, the percentages defaults of this category compared to defaults in other categories of lending. And there just isn't enough data for investors to accurately measure those results longer term because the industry is still in its infancy. And so we're learning about the default rates as we move along. And companies like Klarna have to manage growth of new customers and growth in lending versus the default rates and quality of the customers they're reaching. So they reached 111 million consumers and 790,000 merchants, adding over 200,000 in just the past year. And so this industry is much like other financial payment services industries where it pays to have two-sided growth because the more merchants you have that accept Klarna as a buy now, pay later method, the more consumers will be interested in joining Klarna because there's more merchants that are accepting that. And the more consumers that join and have a Klarna account, the more merchants will be interested because they want access to all of those buyers who may not make a purchase otherwise. And so this positive virtuous cycle just feeds on itself. The more consumers you add, the more merchants are interested. The more merchants are interested, the more consumers you add. And on it can go, feeding itself all the way up. I mean, if you reach the levels of Visa, there are over 4 billion Visa cardholders, or there are over 4 billion Visa cards outstanding. And then if you look on a smaller scale, PayPal has over 400 million monthly active users. Klarna is already at 111 million. And so they're reaching phenomenal growth, and this industry is growing rapidly. Consumers love it because they get to buy things before they have enough money to buy them. And merchants love it because people buy things they otherwise might not have purchased. So both sides of the equation love this service, and so the industry is growing rapidly. It's not just Klarna. Sezzle is also growing rapidly. Affirm is also growing rapidly. So the whole industry is experiencing excellent growth. Klarna noting that the results in GMV on a like-for-like basis, and GMV stands for gross merchandise value, how much money are people spending using Klarna's services, and that increased 13% in Q1, and that accelerated to 19% in Q2. The company generated over 300 million in transaction margin, and the management team is attributing its success to its AI first strategy. And they're highlighting that because they use AI internally, they're able to generate $1 million per employee. That's up from just 369,000 2 years ago. So when you're utilizing artificial intelligence internally, your productivity for each employee increases, and thereby you're able to generate more revenue from each employee. By the way, this document I'm reading from is the company's most recently completed earnings call with Wall Street Analyst. I've made the highlighted document available for my channel members, and you can join for less than $5 a month. See the link in the description for all the benefits you get for joining our channel. This is only one of the many benefits you get. So Klarna has already signed some major merchants, and 4 of the top 5, in fact, in the US work with Klarna, including eBay and Walmart. So these are huge retailers that generate billions of dollars in sales. Walmart approaching 700 billion in sales. And so working with Klarna offers them the access to all of their customers. So revenue in the most recently completed quarter grew to over 800 million, and they have 20% growth in revenue on a like-for-like basis. Transaction margin dollars before provisions for credit losses grew 19% year over year on a like-for-like basis, which was an 8-point acceleration. Transaction margins include provisions for credit losses that increased 4%, a short-term impact of the accelerating adoption of their fair finance product. And the reason for that, they explain very nicely here. So Fair Finance is a term loan product where they lend to customers for higher value purchases paid back over an average of 6 to 12 months. So in these cases, revenue is recognized gradually over the loan duration. So for example, if it's a 6-month loan, they recognize revenue over 6 months. However, they recognize the credit provision immediately. The revenue will be booked over 6 months of the loan. The provisions for credit losses will be booked on month 1. So that creates an initial downside because they book the credit losses immediately, and booking credit losses is a negative for the business. And then they generate the revenue over the term of the loan. So as this product increases as a percentage of its overall revenue, the initial impact will be negative, and then over time, the company will receive the positive impacts. So because we're growing financing in this product over 100%, we're only seeing the early stages of their revenue now, but they're already taking all of the losses. They're already booking all of the loss provisions. So here's something very important. When looking at credit losses as a percentage of gross merchandise value, they've grown over the period from 0.42% to 0.56%, but the main driver is the increased provisions for fair financing, which grew 8 basis points, while the actual loss rates remained stable over the period. So what the management team is telling investors is that if you look at the credit loss as a percentage of GMV metric, you might get concerned because that number is increasing. But when you consider that the reason for the increase is because of that interesting accounting provision where they take the credit loss provision initially and then revenue grows over time. If you remove that factor, then the actual loss rates remain stable over that time. So that's an interesting point that investors in this company should consider while this business is in its early growth stages with these kinds of interesting new product developments that change these important metrics that investors evaluate.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce that my book is finally available for sale. I've been working on it for more than a year now, so I'm really excited to finally share this with you now. It goes through my framework for evaluating stocks. Some of you often ask why I like this stock or why I like the other stock, and this framework provides you the things that I look at when I'm evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.